verses 5 and 6. Verse 5 reads, "At the time of death, anyone who departs by giving up the body while thinking of me alone, he attains my state. There is no doubt about it. O son of Kunti, thinking of any entity, whichever it may be, one gives up body at the end, he attains that very one, having been always engrossed in its thought." So the question says, these verses mention about the thought one, the one who is being thought. These verses mention about the thought one has at the time of leaving the body and how this thought determines where one goes. What is implied here by that, and what is its importance in my day-to-day life? Would you ask that? Remember who is talking here. Sri Krishna is talking. I had just said that every word has its meaning colored by the one who is using that word. In that sense, even though words appear to have objective meanings listed in the dictionary, really no word has any objective meaning. Not only do we use words as we are, we also mean words as we are. Now the verses here say that if at the time of death you are thinking of me, Arjun, then you will attain liberation, you will not come back to this world. To take the point further, the next verse says that the one that you keep thinking of is the one that you get related to in your next birth. This probably confuses the reader a bit, and therefore they have raised a question. We have to investigate the meaning of the word death. When Sri Krishna means death, what does he mean? Is Sri Krishna looking at himself as a body? No. There is no way the author of these lines takes himself as a corporal being. Is Sri Krishna referring to himself as merely the Atma here? Well, yes and no. He does refer to himself as the Atma here, but the role that he is playing here is not of Atma but of Avatar. Are you getting it? Had he been merely the non-doer supreme truth, then he would not have been found mortally present on the battlefield instructing Arjun. Are you getting it? So discount these two and see what you're left with. The body Krishna is not. Therefore, when Krishna says body, he is not referring to physical death. Atma does not die ever. Therefore, when Krishna uses the word death, he cannot refer to Atma. The word death does not apply to Atma at all. Therefore, when Sri Krishna says death, what exactly does he mean? Whose death? He is talking of the death of the mind. The mind is the matter, the subject that Sri Krishna is addressing here. The entire Bhagavad Gita is addressing the mind. Sri Krishna is not talking to Arjun the man. He is speaking to Arjun the mind that is occupied in all kinds of useless things, attachments, memories, hesitations. So when Sri Krishna says death, what he means is the death of the mind. He refers to the subtle death, not the gross death of the body that seems to occur only once in the lifetime or at the end of lifetime. The body seems to meet only one death, and that one death is final, right? Even though when you look at the body microscopically, then you find that the body too is going through a process of continuous death. Death is not an event. Even at the level of the body, the death is a process. But leave that aside. In the dimension of the mind, what is death? In the dimension of mind, death is something that is continuously happening. Because the mind is at no moment what it was the previous moment. Are you getting it? Continuously stuff is happening here. Things are changing here. So what is it that Sri Krishna means? He's saying is, if you are with me this moment, then that will enable you to be with me the next moment. That's my blessing to you. On the other hand, if you are not with me in the mental sense, if you are mentally not with me in this moment, then the next moment you will find yourself having slipped further away from me. That does not mean that the next moment it would be impossible for you to return to me, only difficult, more difficult. Be with me, and the next moment you will find yourself again in my lap. Drift away from me, and then next moment as you open your eyes, you find yourself at a great distance from me. From there you still can come to me. That next moment is your rebirth. But that will require a lot of doing and discipline. Instead of subjecting yourself to that kind of effort a bit later, why don't you be with me right now? If you must think, Arjun, think with me as the foundation of the thought. You don't have to think of me. I cannot be the object of your thought. But let me be the purpose of your thought. Do you get these two? When you think of something, then you are thinking of that thing. But you never think of something for the sake of that thing. You always think of something for the sake of something else, right? Why do you think of a pizza? For the sake of your... Sri Krishna is saying, think of whatever you want to think. Let the object be according to your choice or the situation. But think with me as the purpose of the thought. Who is Sri Krishna? Completion itself, perfection itself. Think of every matter so that you can come to completion. Think in a way that brings you to completion, whatever be the matter. So if I am thinking, for example, of that wall, then my purpose in entertaining that thought has to be to come to a certain contentment or completion using that wall as the object. I know it sounds outrageous. How can one use a wall to come to contentment? But then, don't we use the wall for all kinds of stupid things? Have you not seen mankind raise walls very unnecessarily? We do keep thinking of stuff. The question is, what is it that we are thinking of the stuff for? Getting it? All objects of thought are permissible. The question is, what are you thinking of that thing for? You might be thinking of money. All right. What do you think of that money for? You might be thinking of a man or a woman. All right. Fine. Good. But what are you thinking of that person for? Are you thinking of that person in a way with the intention that that person will bring you to contentment? That is what is meant by keeping Krishna in thought. That is the purpose of these two verses. When Sri Krishna says, think of me, Sri Krishna is obviously not to be objectified. Is Sri Krishna a handkerchief? A piece of wood? Some idol in a temple? Some stone? A fabulous piece of architecture? What is Sri Krishna? How will you think of Sri Krishna? He's beyond thought, right? Therefore, what does it mean to keep thinking of Sri Krishna? It means you can think of whatever you want to think, but think in a way that brings thought to completion. Think in a way that brings the thinker to contentment. That is what is meant by always thinking of Sri Krishna. You don't have to literally think of Sri Krishna. So many people make that mistake. In fact, there are entire movements dedicated to cultivating thoughts of Sri Krishna, the person. They say Sri Krishna is a beautiful personality and you have to keep thinking of him. And they actually do that. They think of Sri Krishna as in some kind of a human form, close their eyes and visualize. This is stupid. This is not at all what Sri Krishna meant. You cannot think of Krishna. You have to think of the world. Whatever you think of will be a worldly thing, right? But think of it in a way that takes you to contentment, peace, truth, completion. These 4 words that we just mentioned, they refer to Krishna. Are you getting it? Therefore, being devoted to Krishna does not forbid thinking of this object or that object. In fact, spirituality or adhyatma is not at all about narrowing down the scope of your thought. The spiritual man would be a great thinker, great thinker. He would have the entire sky available as the expanse to think. The space of his thought would be as unlimited as possible. Then what is the difference between the thinking man and the spiritual man? Just one difference. The thinking man often thinks for the sake of thinking. The spiritual man thinks for the sake of liberation from thinking. Do you get the difference? So think a lot, think a lot. The question is, what is your objective? What are you thinking for? Are you thinking because you derive some kind of pleasure from being a thinker? And there is a lot of pleasure in being a thinker, right? I'm a thinker. What are you doing? I'm thinking, lost in thought. As they say, brooding, pensive. It kind of strokes the ego. Who are you? I'm a thinker. The spiritual man thinks equally deeply, probably even more deeply than the so-called intellectual thinker. But he knows fully well that thought is not the end of thought. That the end of thought has to be to carry you to a state where thought is not even needed. And that state where you do not need thought, you do not need thought because you are now free of the problem that thought was trying to resolve. That point where you do not even need thought is the Krishna point. Do you get this? Don't think of Krishna. Think of a closure. Have that as your goal. When you have that as your goal, then you can call it as Krishna thinking or Krishna consciousness. Is that clear? Getting it? Here, the way the concept has been explained to Arjun, I am compelled to feel that Sri Krishna does not think of Arjun as a very capable student. Sri Krishna has almost been forced to dilute the concept or narrate the concept in a not so subtle form. And that is understandable. Look at all the tantrums that Arjun has been throwing till this point. Look at the way he has been raising questions, and some of his questions are even quite petulant, insolent. At some point he tells Krishna, Krishna, do not try to misguide me. So I do not really see an absolutely dedicated disciple here. Obviously, you have to empathize with Arjun. Look at the situation. He is being called upon to murder his own relatives. It is understandable if his head is spinning a little bit right now. Therefore, this is not the occasion when Sri Krishna can deliver the subtlest of concepts to him. Hence, he is, at least here in these few verses, is speaking a language that is a little coarse. That does not mean that Sri Krishna is delivering a coarse concept. That merely means that that is the requirement of the listener in front of him. Arjun does not seem to be in a position to understand and enjoy subtle things at this moment. It's a battlefield. It's not a classroom. But these verses have been often misinterpreted to cause a lot of confusion. People take them literally and start believing that irrespective of the kind of life they have led, if they somehow utter the name of Krishna in the moment of your death, then they will be liberated or they will be reborn in a pious way or in a nice and happy and wealthy family. That kind of a belief must be dispelled. Sri Krishna is talking of the mind, and if Sri Krishna is to be remembered, then that remembrance has to be constant remembrance. The mind comes and goes away every moment. Getting it? So, just as the movement of mental activity is continuous, similarly the remembrance of Krishna has to be continuous. Let us not deceive ourselves by thinking that we can live and think as we please through the 80 years of our lives, and then suddenly in the moment of death we can compensate for all our stupidities by just once uttering the name of Krishna. That's not going to happen. You require constant vigilance. Constant is the word. Verse 7 now. Therefore, Arjun, think of me at all times and fight. Sri Krishna is unstoppable here. Again he says, think of me at all times. Therefore, think of me at all times and fight. There is no doubt that by dedicating your mind and intellect to me, you will attain me alone. The second line helps us, clarifies a lot. No? First line says, think of me at all times and fight. And we are almost led into believing that Sri Krishna is saying, think of me, the man. Right? Think of me, the son of Yashoda. No, that's not what he's saying. Look at the next line. There is no doubt that by dedicating your mind and intellect to me, you will attain me alone. Dedicate your mind to me. Let me be the target. Let me be the objective in everything that you do. I'll have to repeat some of the stuff that I have already said, but I'll do that. Whenever we do something, we do it for a purpose. Let the purpose be Krishna. The doing cannot be Krishna. The doing might just be purchasing oranges from the market. Where is Krishna in this? Unless you want to believe that one of the oranges is, divine or something. And there are people who do that. They would say, that particular orange, that is not orange, that is orange. Krishna orange. No, none of that. All your daily dealings will obviously involve dealing with the mortal world. Sometimes you are buying oranges. The next moment you are just peeling the oranges. Then putting the stuff in a juicer. Then sipping the juice. Is that not what daily life is all about? What else do? We don't scale Mount Everest every day, or do we? What we call as daily life is just this. Right? Enter the washroom, pick up the soap, apply it. Right? There is no water in the shower. Fight with somebody. Then come out and, why are my clothes not ironed? Reach the office with already a destroyed mood. Create nuisance. That's what daily life is. Sri Krishna is saying, no, always remember what every moment is there for. The purpose, the purpose, the purpose. I have to be the purpose. If you're fighting with someone, Arjun, fight it for me. And ask yourself, are you fighting for your petty own little ego, or are you fighting for me? I am the immeasurable. If you must fight, fight for the immeasurable. And there would be times when fighting is unavoidable. So do fight. The question is, what are you fighting for? What are these oranges for? What are you going to do with the oranges? You're going to dedicate them to the Krishna idol? No. Obviously, the oranges are going to go into your stomach. But then what is your strength, your bodily vigor for? What do you require this body for? You must require this body for liberation. And then, even in the moment of purchasing, buying oranges, you are still remembering Krishna. That does not mean that Krishna has to be in your thought. But if you are purchasing oranges for the sake of your body has to exist for the sake of liberation. Are you getting it? That is what is meant by constant remembrance of Krishna. That is the actual meaning of Krishna consciousness. It's about opening your eyes. It's not about looking hither and thither and saying, oh, that is Krishna and that is Krishna and that is Krishna. Krishna is not so cheap. Being omnipresent is something extremely subtle. Krishna is indeed omnipresent, but not in the way that you start saying, oh, this is Krishna, that is Krishna. The bird is Krishna, and the bird dropping too is Krishna. Very childish, all this. Very childish. There is no doubt that by dedicating your mind and intellect to me, you will attain me alone. Obviously. If you're doing something for the sake of Krishna, that means you're doing something for the sake of, let's say, peace. And if you're doing something for the sake of peace and you do it diligently and honestly, then you will attain peace. And that is what is meant by saying that by dedicating your mind and intellect to me, you will attain me alone. Work for the sake of peace and peace will be what you get. Work for the sake of pettiness, nonsense, and nonsense will be what you get. Simple. Right? That does not mean that if you are constantly remembering Krishna in a mental way, imagining, visualizing, picturizing, then a god called Krishna will descend from the heavens in front of you and bless you, and you will be reduced to tears like the modern Sodama. These are very churlish fantasies.